Hi guys, today we're going to carve some initials in a tree. This cute design was inspired by Plum Polished on Instagram. You'll need a thin art brush, a small dotting tool, and of course some polishes. The ones I've used are pictured here and will be listed below. So we're going to jump right in. Normally I say start with a base that's fully dry, but in this case my base of brown is still wet, and I'm now doing the dry brush technique with this tan color, just lightly dragging my brush, adding a little bit of this color to my nail. And I'm doing this while my nail is wet so that they blend nicely together. So then while my nail is still wet, it doesn't have to be wet, but it doesn't need to be dry either. So rather than wait for it to dry, you can just get started with your wood grain. I've put some brown polish on a piece of tinfoil and I'm using my thin art brush to sketch in these wood grain lines. What I love about this design is it's quick because you don't have to wait for the steps to dry in between. The lines don't have to be perfect, they don't have to be smooth. As a matter of fact, the more jiggly and crooked they are, I think the more it adds to this wood grain design. So you'll see I'm just sketching in those lines. They are not smooth at all. I'm adding some thicker ones and some thinner ones, and I'm making sure that each of my nails are different. The wood grain is in different placement on each of my nails. Now for the nail with the wood carving, again I'm doing the same technique. So I've applied my base brown color here to my nail, and while it's still wet, I quickly go in and clean up my skin around my nail with my brush and some acetone, and you'll see me do that here in a second. And the reason I do this, your designs are going to look a lot better if you take the time to do the cleanup and smooth out your edges. So I always make sure that I clean up around my edges when I'm working on a design. So again, I'm using this same dry brush technique in the center for the heart. Just two lines kind of angling in towards one another creates your heart shape. In this case, I wanted that lighter shade of tan to show up more, but I also wanted that base color to come peeking through. So I'm just going back over that until that base color comes peeking through. Make sure you clean your brush off before you put that back in the bottle. You don't want to add that darker color into your lighter shade. And now I'm adding in my wood grain lines and the outline for the heart. I don't want this to be smooth. I want it to be kind of chunky to look like it was carved, and it doesn't need to be neat. So you'll see I've added that in, and I start to add my wood grain. And then I realized I forgot to dry brush my full nail, so I'm just going to show you a little quick trick, just adding in some little spots of that lighter shade. And though they're not blended in like they were on my other nails, I just take my thin art brush and squish that into the background just to blend it a little bit more. And then we're ready to go add in our wood grain lines. And really, if you want to do this for all of your nails, that is basically the same end result with a little bit of the lighter shade peeking through. This is a really quick design to do. It might not look it, but it is, because you don't have to have any perfection in doing those lines. Like I said, you just squiggle them onto your nail and you're good to go. About the only step that I wait to make sure it dries fully before I go on to the next step is when I add my flowers at the end. So for the carving, I add the plus first, and then I sketch in each of my initials. Obviously you're going to do initials that work for you. In my case, I wanted to do a C for me and a J for my husband. Now I allow my nails to dry and I add my flowers, and the flowers are so easy. It's just a little bit of white polish on my thin art brush, one little dab of the brush to create that petal shape. I add 5 petals, and in the center I use my small dotting tool and add a dot of yellow. And then I let everything dry and apply my top coat, and then we're done. I hope you like this one. If you do recreate it, please hashtag ChristabellNails on Instagram. I love seeing your recreations. Thanks so much for watching. Thumbs up, new subscribers, and comments are always appreciated.